Okay, so how can you tell good, interesting stories about yourself, especially if you're not good at storytelling? This one is incredibly easy. Start off by writing down 3 stories in your life that are the most interesting stories you can think about. I'm telling you now, the most interesting stories are always the terrible ones. The bad things that happen to you that you survived make the best stories. You watch any movie, Star Wars wouldn't be as interesting if Luke Skywalker didn't lose his hand, right? It's always the terrible things that make the better stories. So look at your life, your biggest failures, your biggest mistakes, they're the good stories. So then you take those stories and then you sit down and you write out the bullet points of all the best parts of the stories. And then think about what are the funniest parts of the stories and put a highlight next to those and make sure you focus on those parts and not the rest. Then I would write out the story just once, memorize it, maybe tell it to one of your friends, and note when they laugh. When they laugh, keep that point. If they don't laugh, get rid of that point. Keep going until you've got a story that has people in stitches, and then use that story. Now, I feel that the only way that I can demonstrate this is to tell you a story. So I am now going to share with you one of the most embarrassing stories about my life that is also the #1 story that I go to when I meet someone new and I want to have a good conversation. So get ready for story time, guys. Drink some of this. So here we go. So I used to live in South Africa, and one night it was a Thursday night. I'm never going to forget this. I woke up in the middle of the night because I felt a pain on my butt. I didn't really think anything of it. The next day I wake up, my butt still hurt. I looked in the mirror and I saw a tiny little red dot, and I assumed I got bitten by a mosquito in the middle of the night. Didn't think anything of it. I go to work during the day. I come home from work and the pain in my butt is so bad that my leg is starting to seize up and my butt cheek feels solid. So I get worried about it and I go to see my brother, who I was staying with at the time, and I show him my butt, which is kind of awkward. Imagine going up to your brother and being like, hey, can I just show you my butt? But my brother looked at it and my brother goes, dude, that's not a single red bump. He goes, that's 2 dots in the middle of a red bump. You got bitten by a poisonous spider. He goes, you need to go to the hospital. So I say, okay, cool, let's go to the hospital. And he goes, there's a problem. I'm like, what's that? And he goes, the hospital closes for the weekend. Yep, it's Africa. We're in the middle of nowhere. The hospital closed at the weekend. So I had to wait till Monday to go to the hospital. Now, the problem with this was over the weekend, things progressed and got worse. It turns out that this spider bite wasn't a regular spider bite. It was a brown recluse spider. So now my body is starting to decay around the spider bite. And with a weekend of this happening, I was in absolute agony. And at the time, this is the worst experience of my life. So Monday comes around, I go to the doctor, and the doctor says, we need to do something about this. We're gonna get rid of this spider bite. He goes, don't worry about it. We're gonna operate on it right away. And I was like, thank you so much. So he goes, the way that we're gonna do this is, he goes, I've got some liquid nitrogen. I'm gonna spray it on the bite. It'll numb the area. We'll cut out the bad area and we'll get rid of it. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a great idea to me, totally. So I pull my pants down and I am now completely naked to this African doctor I've never met before. And I'm a bit shy and a bit awkward, but I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I lie on the bed. Now, I don't know if you know what it's like for the women that are watching this when a guy lies down, but when you lie down naked on your back, there's like, you can see something hanging between your legs, right? It's just something about it. So I've got basically my nut, I have big nuts, I just do. So I've got my nuts are hanging out between my legs. So this doctor goes to me, okay, I'm just gonna spray the spray, sprays, goes, oops, and I'm like, that hit my nuts. So this guy sprayed liquid nitrogen on my testicles, and he goes, terribly sorry about that, sprays again and starts going on the operation. Now, sure enough, I can't feel anything about the operation, but I'm just flashing through my head, has he just killed all my future children in a single spray? Like, are my children now frozen? And then at that point, when this thought runs through my head, I start feeling the most intense pain I can possibly imagine. You can't imagine what pain is until you've had your testicles frozen and they start to thaw. Because the warmth returning to the testicles, it's literally like someone has grabbed them, splatted them, and is constantly grinding them. And as the heat slowly comes back to them, like I was almost screaming in pain. And the doctor is just going, yeah, I know, that hurts. And I'm like, how did you know that hurt? How many people have you done this to that you know it hurts? Because it came from a spray can, so I guess the nozzle was just at the wrong experience. Anyway, point being, it was the most painful situation of my life. And then what's worse is we find out after that the spider bit me not once, but actually 7 times. And so the doctor says to me, there's no way that a brown recluse spider bit you 7 times. And I'm like, well, Doc, you're the doc. You've seen it. What do you mean there's no way? Like, come on, you're seeing it. What happened? Like, you tell me. And he goes, well, the thing is, brown recluse spiders, he's like, they'll never get under the bed sheets. And I was like, dude, we live in Africa. I don't sleep under the bed sheets. I sleep on top of the bed sheets. And he goes, okay, well, there's no way they're going to get into your underwear then. And I was like, I sleep naked on top of my bed sheets. And he goes, oh, that's definitely a brown recluse spider then. So apparently I could have completely saved this problem if I'd just given up the fact that I wanted to sleep naked on top of my bed sheets in a country that has 48 degrees Celsius weather almost every single day. Anyway, point being, this is one of the most embarrassing stories of my life, and it makes one of the most interesting conversations. When I bring this up to a group of 5, 6, 7 people, they're all in hysterics, everyone's making faces, oh my gosh, the poor guy. And while it isn't, I'm not a stand-up comedian, it's not the funniest story ever, it is the funniest story that's ever happened to me. And by describing it and telling the story, I have people laughing and giggling and visualizing this situation, and that gives me a great topic of conversation. So hope that helps. That shares one of my stories with you guys. Any other questions, please feel free to keep them coming.